Have you ever wondered what ingredients go into baking a cake? And who doesn't love cake? I know I love cake. And who doesn't love the smell of baked goods as you're coming into a kitchen? So today we're going to start with making a cake out of a cake box. These boxes come with cake mix that's ready to use. There's simple ingredients that you would need to prepare or set up before you start mixing the cake mix. So we're going to go over those ingredients. We're going to go over the reasons why it's important to follow the steps that are in the instructions of the cake mix. And then also we are going to go over a few of the terms or vocabulary, utensils and pans that you would use while you are making your cake. And also, first and foremost would be the pre-washing of hands and sanitation of your working station. One thing to add in there is while you're prepping your station and your ingredients, it's a good idea to get your oven started and familiarize yourself with how your oven would, how you would turn on the oven. Know that when you are working around a stove, you are around hot temperatures, very high temperatures, especially when you're using the oven. So safety is first most when we go to turn on this oven, when we open it to insert the cake pan, and when we take out the cake pan. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sanitize our hands. So we're going to wash. A good thing to remember is rubbing your hands with soap and water for about 20 seconds. And then after we have ensured that our hands are nice and clean, we are also going to ensure that our workstation is properly sanitized. I do have it pre-sanitized, but you would want to use a Clorox wipe or maybe a combination of a little bit of bleach to some water, spray down and wipe down. Make sure your cooking area, your station is nice and dry, nice and clean. And then from there, we're going to move on and we're going to start our oven before we start prepping everything that we need to bake our cake. So before we get started with preparing our mix and our ingredients, getting everything set up, we're going to take a quick look at our box, and we're going to see that we need to heat our oven to 350 degrees. And down here at the bottom, it'll tell us if we're using a round cake pan or a square cake pan, how long that cake will bake in the oven for. So I'm going to prep my oven. I'm going to hit my bake button. It's already set for 350, and I'm going to hit start so that the oven starts preheating. And once I am done and completed mixing my cake, I can just pop that cake right in and let it bake for the needed time. And then I will ensure that I have an oven mitt ready to use and utilize when I need to open my door and put my cake in or take it out. So before we start preparing our cake, our cake mix, I'm going to review some of the utensils that you would need to use in order to bake and make your cake. To start out with, we have measuring cups. We have one that is a full cup. This one goes all the way up to 4 cups. or we have these individual cups that have 1 cup. They all have measurements on them, so depending on what your instructions are, you can easily see that each one will indicate what type of measurement you will need. This one's a 1/2 cup, and then you have a 1/3 cup, 1/3 cup, and then 1/4 cup. Also, I have a whisk to beat our cake mix. If we do not use an electric mixer, then we can use our whisk. A spoon to spoon all our mix onto our cake pans. And here are 2 different types of cake pans that you would want to use depending on the shape of the cake that you want to make. You have the round, and then you have the square. Usually your instructions will call for you to grease your pan, and we'll go over that as well once we get going with the preparation. And then here also important is our spoon measurements. You have the 1/4 teaspoon, the 1/2 teaspoon, the 1 teaspoon, and then your 1 tablespoon. And all these measurements on your cups and your spoons are important because when you are cooking, you want to make sure that you use the correct ingredients. You don't make your food overly soggy or too dry. So measuring the ingredient correctly is going to ensure that you cook that food properly. So before we get started, I'm going to go over the steps that are on the back of the box. We're going to start from top to bottom and read through it before we actually get started on making the cake. If you look at the very top, you're going to get the ingredients that you need. For this cake, you're going to need 1 cup of water, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and 3 egg whites, or 3 whole eggs, depending on how you want to make the cake. This box gives us instructions in English and in Spanish in case you needed Spanish instructions. So step 1, we already have our oven preheated to 350. It says for shiny metal or glass pans, or 325 degrees for dark or nonstick pans. Grease bottom only of a 13x9 pan, or bottom and sides of all other pans. So again, depending on what cake pan you're going to use, you need to follow the instructions for your oven temperature setting and how you're going to grease that pan. Step number 2 is you're going to actually mix the ingredients. So you'll need your cake mix, you're going to need your water, which is the 1 cup of water, and the 1/2 cup oil, vegetable oil, and whether you're going to use the 3 egg whites or the 3 whole eggs. And you're going to just pour everything in here. And here's an important step that you want to also think about. Are we using an electric mixer? We are not. So it does tell us in our instructions that we can beat vigorously by hand for 2 minutes. So once everything is mixed, we can beat the mixture with our whisk vigorously for 2 minutes. Once our cake mix is done and ready to pour, we will use the 2 8-inch cake pans. So we would just pour everything into our 2 cake pans. And if we take a look at our instructions under pan size, if we use the 2 8 round inch, then we're going to need a bake time of 29 to 34 minutes. I've always been taught, you know, if you want to check your cake to make sure that it's done, you insert a toothpick in the middle of your cake. And then if it comes out clean, then you pretty much are done baking your cake.